What up, guys?
One, two, three, break it down.
Yo, guys, what up? You guys are having a good night?
One, two, three, kick it.
You guys are having a great night. Let me fix my camera. One second. Here we go. Yeah, so we got quite a bit to talk about tonight, including we got 25 years of Deus Ex to talk about. Officially 25 years of Deus Ex, and we're going to be talking about, we got to talk about a lot of what happened during that time. Yeah, we have to talk about everything involved with Deus Ex's whole history. Like, it's quite a bit. Like, the original Deus Ex came out back when I was like still like, you know, super young, so I didn't get a chance to play it back then, but then I got around to it later during COVID. It's pretty amazing, so I actually wanted to look over some of the stuff from that period from Deus Ex. Anyways, let me pull that up right now. Let me get that pulled up so that we can look over all that.
Dropping below 20% body fat.
Alright.
One, two, three, kick it. One, two, three, break it down.
Alright, give me a minute. Now we're talking. Let me get the ASX stuff out. So apparently this is like literally 10 years ago. This other video came out back in 2015 in October, where they celebrated the 15 years of ASX's history. Let's actually take a look at this out of the way. Okay, give me a moment. Here we go. This is from the official Deus Ex page.
Gaming's perpetual window into the future, the Deus Ex franchise has long been
Oh,
regarded
Naomi
as one of the
Kyle.
most innovative series ever created.
So different back then. Best trailer.
We're looking
GameSpot.
back at the iconic franchise and getting an inside look at what's coming next. I'm Naomi Kyle,
Yeah.
and this is DX15.
The X15, 15 years, presented by Square Enix.
Set in a dystopian future of 2052, Deus Ex has long been regarded as one of the best PC games of all time, with over 1
It
million
is.
copies sold since its debut. Today we begin our journey with the original founders of Deus Ex. 15 years later, we're sitting down with Chris Norton, Sheldon Picotti, and Warren Spector as
Oh,
they reflect
yeah.
on the genesis of the idea, their influences for the futuristic story, and how the game's success spawned a franchise.
Hey, you look like a
Boy,
vigilante type.
15
If
years.
you told me anybody was going to care about any game for 15 years, I would have said you were nuts. The thing that kills me is it's not just that people think about it and talk about it. I get emails from people all the time telling me they're still playing it.
I talked to some people that said,
That's
I play it
awesome.
every year, and just make a point to go back and experience it again just because it was so interesting and different at the time.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. Like, I'm blown away by that.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I have students that say it's one of their favorite games of all
Sheldon
time.
Picotti.
I didn't expect it to be the success that it eventually turned out to be, but that didn't matter. Like, we were making the game we wanted to make. We were all super dedicated to doing it the right way and making it tell the story we wanted to
There's
tell
Paul.
and present the choice and the stuff that we really focused on to the players.
The artists, the art team, they all seemed to really enjoy the work they were doing. The style was solid, everything was good. The design team meshed well with the art team. We all worked together really well.
I gotta admit, I did think it was going to be kind of a cult classic as opposed to a mega hit,
Yeah.
but it was the game I was gonna make somehow, some way, sometime, and nobody was damn well gonna stop me. I didn't care if
Yeah.
it sold 3 copies.
All began.
Well, I started thinking about Deus Ex in 1994, actually, which was 6 years
Oh,
before the
a
game
year
shipped.
after,
I was tired of making games or playing games about guys in plate armor with giant swords and you being the last space marine between the Earth and alien invasion. I was about to start another company entirely, and I got a call from John Romero up in Dallas from Lionstorm saying, how would you like to make the game of your dreams with no creative interference? No one will ever tell you anything. And I just, who says no to that opportunity? Deus Ex Machina is a literary criticism term that basically says writer writes him or herself into a corner, that you can't get out of. And so a god descends from the heavens and just says, poof, well, that plot problem is solved. Deus Ex is kind of a statement about how bad game stories are. It was 3 or 4 years before the millennium, and everybody expected Y2K to destroy the world, and I started thinking about what are people thinking about? What do people care about right now? And everywhere I turned, I saw another nutty conspiracy theory.
Give me a chopper and a pilot and I'll handle it.
Youth and fiction.
The starting point for Deus Ex was, what if every conspiracy theory people believe to be true is true?
Yeah.
What happens if you take a guy who believes that things are black and white, good and evil, and throw him into a world that's all shades of gray? What's going to happen when we have mechanical augmentation and nano augmentation? What does it mean to be human? And then on top of that, what happens when you throw in AI that actually
that.
becomes sentient? And all that
A
stuff,
sentient AI.
it's actually all come true.
A lot of people ask me, how did you predict all this stuff? It's like, we didn't predict anything. We tried a whole bunch of different stuff and we told a lot of different stories, and some of them just happened. Because in the future, you don't necessarily know how that particular object is going to react. You know what it is today, but maybe in 50 years, computers don't look like computers anymore. So we can kind of reimagine what objects might be and then make them behave the way we want them to behave based on our technical limitations, which was a very nice little cheat.
I think whenever you write fiction, you have to believe in it yourself as an author. And so no matter what the element was, whether it was aliens coming to Earth or, you know, the Templars or something, we did enough research to find out what was true about them and put them into the storyline in a way that was believable. So I think that's why some of the technology predictions in particular seem kind of cogent, because it was using terminology of the time that actually was real technology and still holds up together pretty well today.
Lead the way.
The big strength of the game is that we didn't try to contain the player on a track. We just let the player go and attack objectives in whatever order they wanted, and gave the player freedom to explore the story in their own way.
It's not about beating a boss. It's not about just, you know, saving a princess. It's about how do you think the world should be? Not how does the designer want the world to be, not how does the character want the world to be. How do you as a human being playing the game think the world should be?
Some people think it's a right-wing game, some people think it's a left-wing game. And it's because, you know, some people read more of the stuff that was supporting the left-wing in-game than the right-wing in-game. It's all in there.
It's a game you can play over and over and over again and get more story and get a different experience.
I definitely gotta play it again.
I think there are a lot of games out there that were influenced by it. We were kind of the first game that mashed up genres in the way that we did. At least one of the first games that really put players in control of the story. And since then, you know, you can rattle off the names of plenty of games that are now doing that, frankly doing it probably better than we did. But it's nice to feel like you made a difference, not just to players, but actually to other developers as well.
It's been a fascinating look at how Deus Ex began, but the journey isn't over yet. In the next chapter of our series, we dive into the making of the sequel, Invisible War.
Invisible War.
I think something's going on here.
After all the critical acclaim and success of the original, Warren Spector and his team were eager to build on their momentum. And in 2003, Deus Ex Invisible War was released. Set in 2072, it took place 20 years after the events of the first game. Today we learn more about the more mature tone and the creator's feelings on the future of Deus Ex.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Terrible.
With Invisible War, the primary motivation was to make the game more accessible. We wanted to reach even more people. And the first game, it was pretty hardcore. We were making a game for ourselves, and we were all pretty hardcore gamers. But I always felt that making a game where if the shooting is too hard for you, don't shoot, try something else. If the sneaking is too hard for you, don't sneak, try something else. And I always thought that was a really mainstream idea.
Just making the world safer, one mad scientist at a time.
In Invisible War, we really wanted the player to be more important than the story.
Yeah, one thing we try to do is bring the player
that was
even
to the
closer into
detriment
the
of it.
story by letting the player define who the main character is. The player's hometown is destroyed at the beginning of the game, and part of the motivation of that was to let the player really put themselves into the story and try to make it their own. By 2072, anything could happen, and almost everything does in Invisible War, I think. We started with the notion that all of the in-games happened from the first game, so a cataclysm had already happened. And that put us into a world that was hugely shaken up and completely different than anything we know today. And I think that in itself put the player in a very strange place.
The haves and have-nots element is an important part of our world today. It was an undercurrent in the first game, but it became a very important part of the second one.
Right around the time we were building Invisible War, there were protests against the WTO, and those are pretty literally translated into 70 years in the future, with Seattle being stratified, with the World Trade Organization having little enclaves of cities that they control.
And religious strife, too. I mean, you could see the rise of the religious right when we were working on that game, and so a lot of that entered into the story.
Yeah, I've been completely impressed by the way the IDOS team has approached the franchise with what seems to me like complete reverence. They've taken apart the DNA of the original game and thought really hard about the content of the story, how to make it political and cerebral, at the same time as being a dramatic story.
The Deus Ex games, Human Revolution, was about something, and I was really, really happy about that. And I really felt empowered as a player. I hope it's still going in 15 more years. And I really hope
it just got killed.
that whoever is making Deus Ex games in the future, that they really build on the idea of empowering players.
Give the player real choice instead of just, oh, well, we're just going to drag you along and kind of pretend that you have control, but you really don't.
Sharing authorship with players is the thing that games can do that no other medium can do. And so we have to do that better and better and better.
Well, that wraps up our time with the original creators. Be ready for the next chapter where we sit down with the developers at DEUS Montreal, who brought Deus Ex back to life after 8 long years with Human Revolution. In 2011, a whole new audience was introduced to the world of Deus Ex with Human Revolution, taking place in 2027, 25 years before Deus Ex and 45 years before Invisible War. Human Revolution was a relaunch of the franchise by DEUS Montreal. So listen as we sit down with its creators and we learn how they resurrected such an iconic franchise, why Deus Ex is so captivating, and just how close the real world is to one of Adam Jensen's 2027.
Some people will be left behind. It's evolution.
You've got to help me.
It's so good up until the ending.
The idea was to create a studio that would bring DEUS franchises alive again.
If we didn't believe we could bring something to the table and we didn't think we could revive the franchise, we would have never accepted.
In DEUS Montreal, we have strong values, we have a philosophy, we have a mission, we have a vision. So it's very important to us.
We were coming from different studios in the past, and we all left our previous project, our previous studio, just because we wanted to work on Deus Ex Human Revolution.
It was very, very challenging. It's creating a new studio, and we decided to use a big license. The fact that we worked together before helped a lot.
There's a nightclub in this sector called The Hive. If our hacker went to ground here, chances are the owner will know.
The problem is it feels so different. It feels like
it's a franchise that is all about choices and consequences. It was one of the first games out there that made you feel that you were part of that world. I was more interested in the human story behind it than the technology itself.
Transhumanism was part of the franchise, but it wasn't like at
the forefront.
Yeah, it wasn't overly stated. We need to bring cyberpunk, but we need to make it ours at the same time. It can't just look like the run-of-the-mill.
Even before starting the conception, the design of the new Deus Ex game, we just played it again. A lot to analyze it, to define what was the pillars of this game. And from that point, we brought our signature to it.
Their own signature.
It's definitely a tough challenge when you listen to something in 2000 and you're like, how am I going to make this relevant by today's standards? We kind of came to this sort of mix where we used organic instruments to sort of represent the more human side, and we went with more of the synth electro to represent more of the AUG side.
Sometimes we have some fights between each other, but you know, every fight we had, it's for the best for the title.
We have something very niche, very specific, and the gamers are looking for that now. They want story, they want strong themes, they want strong message, they want to be immersed in a very strong universe, and Deus Ex is perfect for that.
It's all about choices and consequences and self-expression, so it's a game that you kind of play to determine how you want to play it and how you want to approach problems and how you want to see the outcomes of your decisions. And since it's very, very story-driven, it also has a really good opportunity to explore some very interesting themes in the world and to put up kind of a mirror to the world and allow you to experience these really deep issues, very interesting ethical and moral issues.
Stop them. Megan was on the brink of something historic.
I love you. Deus Ex Human Revolution is really exploring the themes of transhumanism. You're looking at building a world in which technology and biology are combining. So what does that mean, and what does it mean to be human?
One of the strong things of Human Revolution. Raising the bar.
We ask gamers to come to visit us and play the game, even if it's rough, it's not completed. We ask their feedback. It's very important to us to ensure that we fulfill their expectations, because The bar is very high.
If you want to play the game
after
very rapidly,
War,
you have the means.
left the series dead
if
for a
you
long
want
time.
to take your time to explore, you're able to do that. The emotion is very important for us. It's not just play a game, it's create an experience.
Well, when we
I'm looking
predicted
forward
7
to
years ago
Hell
that
Is Us.
human beings gonna get prosthesis, this is happening right now. And you know, for us, it was more than just a product. It was a belief that this is the world we're gonna be living in the future.
We even had people that had disabilities writing to us and like, oh my God, your game gave me hope, or your stuff like that, you know, which was really, really touching.
There was someone also that wrote that after playing the game, he said, I feel I need to be a doctor and help people in life. And when you read that, you're like, it reminds you why you're doing what you're doing.
Because we were delivering a great game, we can come out with something successful.
Can be talented, but if there is no match,
That's really good.
no
They
fit,
team
it won't work.
By the end of the game,
like
like
a
players
whole
would go,
year,
wow,
like
it
a
was
whole,
entertaining, it was quite a
5
journey,
years
and
in
it made me
making
think.
this.
Don't worry, there's a lot more to say about Deus Ex. Next time, we get an inside look at the next game, Mankind Divided. We'll see how Adam's journey fits into the overall Deus Ex universe.
The Mankind Divided was super compromised.
Deus Ex Mankind Divided continues where Human Revolution left off. Taking place 2 years later, Adam Jensen returns and fights with new body augmentations and technology in a world forever changed by the AUG incident.
I got a no-kill order. Would have thought he'd done enough to warrant extreme prejudice.
It looked so good, and then Square did everything to screw this game up.
The world of Mankind Divided is a much different place than Human Revolution. Today we learn more about the new game, its place in the overall franchise, and what dark corners of the Deus Ex universe remain unexplored.
Rucker?
Rucker's dead.
A lot of things happened between Human Revolution and Mankind Divided. We planned for a transmedia approach for the Deus Ex universe. So it's not just a game now, it's a franchise.
How do we get to do more, make more experience, but also that it's exponentially bigger?
You know, when you do a painting, you start with your foundation, and, you know, like you just block things in, and then you're like, okay, this works, and then we go with the details, and, you know, the crazy rendering, and it looks like HR was our blocking, and now it's like, wow, it's really coming to life.
You walk in a room, and the room can tell you a story. So with the Dawn engine and the new gen consoles and the powerful PCs nowadays, we can really create rich environments.
The Dawn engine just opens up new possibilities in terms of expanding the tool set.
We've really achieved this vision. Like we had it at the beginning, and you know, we had achieved just 50% of it. I think now it's very much there, and stuff as well, like very cool next gen stuff, like the hair that we do, and you know, all these new additions, and the lighting system has been totally revamped. The game just feels, I mean, people are noticing it right away.
This game engine was great. It was crashing.
Mankind Divided takes place 2 years after Human Revolution. So now you're facing a world state where the mechanically augmented are being reviled. Many of them are being forced to live in segregated camps.
You're facing a lot of cops, a lot of augmented people. How do you deal with them?
Ice.
Where's your judgment? You can go in guns blazing, you can go combat but non-lethal, or you can avoid it all.
We don't want to make a game
augmented,
that we want to play. You know, it's a mature title.
segregation.
It's something that is dealing with kind of serious contemporary now issues.
When we talk about
definitely
the setting
contemporary
for
now.
Mankind Divided, we're
Oh
talking
my
about
God,
mechanical
it's so
apartheid.
relevant
We've
now.
entered a period in
than
this
anything.
universe where the mechanically augmented are really being discriminated against. There's a lot of paranoia about them,
and paranoia
a lot of
on
feeling that these
augmented
people
people.
are second-class citizens. These are people who don't
Literally
deserve to
dealing
be with
with-
the rest of society
literally
because of
dealing with
something that they have no
racism,
control
the
over.
theme.
It's a much darker world, a much more cynical world, a world more bathed in fear and suspicion.
Bathed in
We tried to push the
literal ice.
augmentations this time around
try
to
to
have more variety all over the
segregate.
place, but we
More visual as
more
well,
visuals, more visceral, more impactful.
I like to engage in combat and get my hands dirty when I play a Deus Ex game, and I think that we're really boosting that offer a lot.
So the combat was very important. We put a lot of effort in the combat intensity. We decided in level design to open more the level.
Part of the game takes place in Prague, and one of the things we already did was bring in real Czech actors.
It's the customary final request of the condemned man. Please, do not kill any more of my people on your way out.
We did no compromise. Once again, we wanted to push the envelope.
The goal is really to give to the player more than just the game.
We wanted to make sure that you can be a stealthy agent and be a killing machine, or be a combat-oriented kind of guy and still be like, I care about human lives, so I'm going to spare them. So we put a lot of efforts in that sense to make sure that the augmentation experience is way more rounder, way more possibilities, no matter what your play style is.
In the Deus Ex franchise is really about empowering the player with choosing the way he wants to play.
It's not just go stop the bad guy. It's like, is the bad guy a bad guy? Why is he doing that?
My favorite part of this franchise is really the narrative aspect, really the story. I really like the fact that it's much more than just save the princess.
You can spend 10 minutes on a side quest and finish it, or depending on what you do in that side quest, you can discover all these other intricate branches that are leading off, and you can end up having an hour adventure just with a side quest.
It's the type of game where you can play it one time and play it one way and have one experience, and then replay it again and make different choices in the game, and you will have a different experience, and you'll have different conversations depending on how you play it. It feels and sounds more mature. We have a much more robust music system that allows us to do a lot more, whereas before Human Revolution, and as I spoke, we had like roughly 3 layers to play with. We're only limited by how we want to do it. We set our own limitations.
Shit, Jensen, behind you!
Our job as game developers and as people who are working with science fiction to hold up a lens to the world and say, this is what we're showing you, and it's what exists out there now. So how does that make you feel, and what do you want to do about it?
We will not sit idly by and allow our rights to be eroded out of fear and ignorance any longer.
I hope people will finish the game. I hope they are going to be, curious enough to understand what is behind all this.
The most thing that I could be proud of is when someone's going to pick up the game, play it, and enjoy it.
Even though
As simple
Deus
as
Ex
this.
is
The old rules no longer apply.
And this character had no heart
Well,
whatsoever
this has
in
been
the
an
full
amazing journey, from the insight on the game's creation to its rebirth on the modern gaming scene. It's been a pleasure to get so much inside information from the creators themselves. Deus Ex has proven to be one of the most unique universes in existence. The future for the franchise looks brighter than ever.
Maybe not still. Give me a moment. What the? Oh, they have. Good game. Loves you. Get the Gex. Odyssey. But yeah, that Deus Ex Retrospect Part 1, the Ally. Yeah, rise and fall of Deus Ex.
Gamers.
Unit lost.
During the 80s and 90s, most video game genres tended to stay squarely in their lanes. First-person shooters like Doom focused exclusively on gunning down monsters. Role-playing games like Ultima epitomized inventories and statistics. And stealth games like Thief prioritized sneaking through the shadows above all else. Every now and then, an experience like System Shock or Strife would come along and challenge the medium's self-imposed rigidness by melding multiple genres together. Yet many would argue it was only after the release of Deus Ex that the idea of a genre-bending game became truly popular. The brainchild of Warren Spector, Deus Ex allowed players to make their way through a cyberpunk rendition of the year 2052 using a wide variety of different mechanics and playstyles, allowing for an uncountable number of solutions to its lifelike quagmires. The experience that it provided was as stupendous in its execution as it was difficult to quantify, so much so that it would single-handedly usher in the term immersive sim to describe all prior and future games that would be included in its lineage. Countless developers would incorporate Deus Ex's most salient aspects into their craft in the wake of its release, and many would reap the benefits of doing so for years to come. Yet Deus Ex's own developers would struggle to fully capitalize on their opus's success, producing only a single underwhelming sequel in the years that would follow before being scattered to the wind. A passionate team based in Montreal would eventually take up the series' mantle and release a respectful reboot over a decade after the first game's debut.
It's a total reboot.
But in the end, despite following up said reboot with a solid sequel, the team would be forced to focus its efforts elsewhere, and the series would go dormant once more. This is the rise and fall of Deus Ex.
AC Denton and Adam Jensen.
Deus Ex 3 also quietly took place at Redwood City-based developer Crystal Dynamics, which tasked itself with developing a more combat-centric threequel titled Deus Ex: Clan Wars. The latter ended up gradually evolving into its own entity over the course of its production, and was eventually renamed Project Snowblind to set it apart from its original namesake. While this arguably resulted in much of the industry passing it by when it released in 2005, those who picked it up would praise it for the quality of its combat and breakneck pacing.
Doc, we got problems. We're losing him.
Project Snowblind is so weird.
The future of Deus Ex was looking grim. With Ion Storm gone, the series' property rights were now in Eidos Interactive's hands alone. And while the publisher understood the brand power that it contained, it was anyone's guess as to when or whether it would act upon it. Yet no sooner had the possibility of the series being over entered fans' minds than Eidos would open a new studio in Montreal and announce that it was hard at work on Deus Ex: Human Revolution. In many ways, the development of Human Revolution would parallel that of the original Deus Ex. Like Ion Storm Austin before it, Eidos Montreal represented a team coming together for the first time to tackle a massive undertaking. They spent a considerable amount of time scoping out their version of the threequel during the early days of its production, exhaustively noting down everything that they liked and disliked about the first two games to help set the tone for what was to come. And once development was in high gear, they were forced to contend with technology issues, cut no small amount of content, and deal with a powerful, yet ultimately supportive new publisher that acquired it partway through. In this case, the publisher was Square Enix, which saw fit to purchase all of Eidos Interactive's assets in early 2009. Despite its history of working primarily with Eastern properties like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, Square quickly came to respect Eidos Montreal's dedication to its craft after the acquisition, and let its staff continue development largely unabated. Yet Human Revolution's development would also differ from that of the original Deus Ex, perhaps most critically, when Eidos Montreal would scope out what it wanted the threequel to explore on a thematic level. Instead of taking place in the year 2052, the team decided to have Human Revolution take place in 2027, a time where physical augmentations are being embraced at an unparalleled
2027.
rate,
Yeah,
and
that
the
won't
world
get
is in the
old.
middle of a new renaissance of transhumanism wonder. Speaking to Edge magazine in 2010, game director Jean-Francois Degueur and art director Jonathan Jack Bellatet would explain how they believed going back in time and showing a society that is slowly exchanging its humanity for mechanical parts would make for a powerful aesthetic effect, as well as allow them to underscore the entire experience with a foreboding sense of tragedy. Eidos Montreal would likewise go against the grain in its design of Human Revolution's protagonist, a former SWAT team leader turned augmented weapon named Adam Jensen. While the team understood the importance of making Jensen a cipher for players to lay their own personality onto, like the original Deus Ex's J.C. Denton, they ultimately decided to provide Jensen with a more well-defined personality off the bat, and to provide players with opportunities to observe his actions in battle from a third-person perspective. It was their belief that, in the long run, these changes would help players connect more deeply with Jensen as a character. Human Revolution was an opportunity for older fans to come home, but it was also a chance to introduce a new generation of players to the unparalleled sense of freedom that the series uniquely provided. The studio wanted to create an experience that would honor Ion Storm's classics, but it also understood the importance of needing to appeal to more modern sensibilities.
I feel like this series could have done better if it wasn't called Deus Ex, if it was something else entirely different. I think it would have worked better. But overall, I think, you know, it's a great game. Good game. The opening was obvious.
As Human Revolution's release date barreled closer and closer, fans were beset by a mixture of excitement, hope, and caution. It was unthinkable that Deus Ex was finally getting a comeback, and that Eidos Montreal, despite its tenuous connection to the team which had created the series, seemed to understand what made it tick. But there were no shortage of video game reboots over the past several years that had sacrificed their identity and depth in favor of cheap thrills, and there was no way of telling whether Human Revolution would fall into the same camp until it was out on store shelves. At the end of the day, they needn't have worried. When Human Revolution finally released in August of 2011, most fans found Eidos Montreal's freshman effort to be well worthy of praise. While the complexity of its gameplay was a notch below what the first game had offered, and its portrayal of Adam Jensen occasionally left something to be desired, the experience that it offered was still no less exceptional, with almost every single level and hub city in the game serving as a playground for Jensen's bionic arsenal and creativity, as well as a showcase for Eidos Montreal's writing acumen. And its visual style, with its unconventionally warm color palette, helped make every minute of it feel all the more special. The only major aspect of Human Revolution that most took umbrage with were its boss battles, which forced players into straightforward slugfests where stealth and hacking were of little use. They weren't outright terrible, but they felt fundamentally at odds with the rest of the game's design. Eidos Montreal would later reveal that these battles had been outsourced to an external developer called Grip Entertainment, and how even before doing so, it hadn't done a very good job of laying out how the battles would be integrated into the rest of the experience during the early days of production. In the end, the studio would manage to smooth things over in 2013 with the Director's Cut release of Human Revolution. The Director's Cut dramatically overhauled the game's boss encounters to allow for more tactical options, and integrated a host of new bells and whistles into the rest of its proceedings, including an entirely new chapter that had previously only been available as downloadable content. This title would follow the release of a high-budget mobile game spin-off called Deus Ex: The Fall, and ultimately coincide with Eidos formally announcing the Deus Ex universe. The story of Deus Ex, Eidos promised, would no longer play out on PCs and consoles alone. It would play out across smartphones, books, and graphic novels with unique experiences tailored to each platform, and it would do so for years to come. What was once just a video game series was now a massive multimedia franchise in the making.
Much to its
While this mandate suggested to fans that whatever was set to follow Human Revolution would be vast in scope, Eidos Montreal had by this point already set its sights on crafting a much different sort of sequel. In a 2019 interview with VG 24/7, Adam Jensen voice actor Elias Tufexis would reveal how in the immediate aftermath of Human Revolution, the studio initially wanted to develop a sequel without Jensen at all. Its marketing department quickly convinced them to abandon this idea and continue capitalizing on Jensen's popularity. But even after this was agreed on, the team decided to keep the sequel structure unorthodox. Players would be able to globetrot around the world to a variety of different locales, but the meat of its action, they decided, would take place in and around a single dense hub, one that would provide them with plenty of opportunity to explore their surroundings and breathe in the unrest hanging in its air. After weighing its options, the studio decided upon the city of Prague as this area, and a boiling animosity towards augmented humans as the unrest. Where Human Revolution had largely focused on humanity's embrace of augmentations, Mankind Divided would focus on their fear and rejection of them, as well as the trauma of the planet still recovering from the first game's events. The studio likewise resolved to offer a much higher degree of verticality and complexity in each of Mankind Divided's areas in order to ensure every inch of the experience felt equally improved over its predecessor. Despite their best efforts, all of this would end up taking the team over 5 years to develop. In an interview with Rolling Stone ahead of its release, Eidos Montreal's Mary DeMauro and Patrick Fortier would explain how a mixture of technological and narrative-based complications made the process of assembling Mankind Divided's world much more labor-intensive than anyone was anticipating, and how the complexity of its environment only dragged things out further. While a few entries in the expanded Deus Ex universe helped keep fans occupied during this period, including the puzzle-centric Deus Ex Go, the wait was long, and was made all the more so by Mankind Divided's marketing, which included an awkward allusion to a certain political movement and a badly received pre-order bonus campaign. As a result, when Mankind Divided finally released in 2016, players were relieved to discover that the actual game at the center of all these marketing blunders was uncompromised, at least up until the end. Most agreed that Prague made for one of the strongest city hubs featured in the entire history of the series, and that the quality of its writing generally serviced its dire ambience well. But after spending dozens of hours immersed in its fiction, most were equally frustrated to discover all of its rising intrigue undercut by a stunningly abrupt ending. Many fans would go on to speculate that Square Enix had deliberately forced Eidos Montreal to chop off the true conclusion to Mankind Divided's story, perhaps out of a desire to spread out its content over multiple releases and maximize its profit potential. While it's unlikely that this actually happened, multiple sources have indicated that Eidos did have a dedicated team working on a follow-up to Divided towards the end of its development. According to a trusted source, this project entered development as early as 2015 and was downsized when Square pulled multiple people off of it to help finish Divided. Elias Tufexis would likewise confirm in his VG247 interview that the sequel was relatively early in production and in an awkward spot. Apparently, disagreements over its direction resulted in 2 months of performance work being scrapped and a new team of creatives being brought on board to course correct. Everyone thereafter was ready to continue moving forward. But before they could do so, Square Enix came to the decision that Mankind Divided had performed below expectations, and the follow-up was put on hold.
God, Square killed the series from that on. And the series has been dead for a long time.
No inmates pass this line.
Hold on.
Over the course of the next 6 months, Eidos Montreal would treat fans to a smattering of episodic DLC, a VR experience based around Mankind Divided locales, and a standalone version of Divided's Breach Mode. All of these releases suggested that even with Mankind Divided's underperformance, Square Enix was still interested in continuing to support the Deus Ex universe in at least some capacity. 3 years onward, however, and the universe has been all but abandoned. No new Deus Ex projects are on the horizon, and little of the talent that helped bring the series back into the limelight is in a position to do so again. Square Enix CEO Yosuke Matsuda has insisted that Deus Ex remains a very important franchise for the publisher, and that it's only dormant at the moment because the publisher's current slate of projects have left it short-handed for resources. But even with this assurance, there's still no way of knowing whether it will return to the franchise when the opportunity will present itself, or even if said opportunity will ever present itself at all.
They sold
For many
Deus
longtime
Ex
fans,
to another.
the current situation is as frustrating as it is tragic. Video game series come and go all the time, with audiences' ever-changing tastes forcing even the most popular of experience to go into hibernation. But for a brief period,
Yeah, Deus Ex predicted the future. You gotta do a playthrough
Mr.
of it at
J.C.
some
Denton,
point.
in the flesh.
In the fridge.
As dark and serious as his brother.
Hi, baby. What's your name?
JC.
Mysterious.
Perfect. I order you to stand in the spotlight and growl at the women like a dog who needs a master.
He was a good man. What a rotten way to die.
Depending on what day of the week you ask me, Deus Ex is my favorite game. I haven't kept track, but I'm fairly certain it's the game I've beaten the most over the years. I'm not one to typically replay games over and over. Deus Ex is a game where it's so rare, as I did this playthrough a couple months back. However, I held off a bit as there were some other notable Deus Ex videos released at that time. This turned out to also be a blessing, as there was a notable mod that was released, and more has happened in our world that chose Deus Ex getting the future right again. So now it's time for the Boulder Punch perspective.
Do you have a single fact to back that up?
For this video, I'm playing
Yeah. But anyways, that's all that there is. Last week, we got some bad news too. Xbox.
Deus Ex without any gameplay mod.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. Bad all over. Just with Xbox, really not that. With how they're killing projects by one, and like Dark got axed. We do have one good. It was just really sucks. We were promised like really good sequel. In general, with the to bring back Perfect Dark with the initiative running it, but then and we got a trailer last year. After that, they decided to kill the whole thing just last week. 1 week since they've axed their entire. It's amazing. Like it's like saying like they've cut the third team, a bunch of other projects. All. Anyways. We do have some good news, good stuff to look at though. Got a couple of sneaks from the official Twitter. We gotta look at some additional gameplay. Good. One of a kind, I guess. The experience for collection. Landmark title. New graphic novel. This is when the Legacy Collection release with all the games. Honor defining. The world spanning saga. Warrior soldier minds. And they really edited this trailer out amazingly, like spanning and even including all of MGS4's best moments. Metal Gear 1, Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake, Metal Gear Solid and Evil, Sons of Liberty, Snake Eater, Guns of the Patriots, and Peace Walker, and the graphic novel. We needed this collection back in 2023. Hopefully we get the Master Collection Part 2 this year. Hopefully we get. Anyways, we got to get into some Death Stranding 2 right now. I'm going to change things up really quick. Hold on a moment, guys. I'll be right back. the world again. Are more terrifying. Hey folks, I'm sure you know this thing. Alright, let's jump back into Death Stranding. Let me just this. Go. All right, let's jump back.
Good. legs. I got pins and needles.
drawbridge credentials verified.
Security measures lifted. Weapons detected. Be advised that usage is restricted inside facility grounds. Disengaging weapons restriction.
Relax.
What's that one?
Sam. We have to deal with these next first. We can fight tomorrow once that's done. Is that all you got? Come on!
I'm sorry, Sam, but we seem to be having some issues with the Magellan at the moment. To get to the bottom of the problem, we need to stay put and run diagnostics.
Thanks for the help. Thank you kindly.
Oh, you can. Ow. Orders.
Excellent work, Sam. Now then, let's see if we can learn anything of use from this jacket. It could point us in the right direction.
Damn.
Thank you.
I didn't have anywhere else to go.
Were you trying to find your way back?
I suppose you have friends and family there, waiting for you to come home?
I don't know.
Everyone there has passed on. There's no place for the living in that world.
Tell me, am I really alive?
Well, yeah. Of course you are. Do you want to stay with us on the DHV Magellan?
But I saw how everyone was fighting because of me.
Ah, I'm sorry.
All that wasn't your fault. We're just worried about you. Wait.
I don't think I ever had a family. Do you have one?
No. Not anymore.
You miss them?
Yeah.
So, I can stay on the ship? Thank you.
That was a, first of all, that was a everything. Minor.
You have a very special gift tomorrow.
That was already amazing.
It could help us. But for that to
Man,
happen,
that adds so much.
you first need to learn how to control it. Want to come work for us? You can stay on the ship as long as you like.
This is our gift to you. As long as you have it, we'll find you. No matter where you go.
Welcome to Drawbridge. To our little family. Come on, let's head inside.
That's right. Nice. To the wild Hanover. Nice.
Now displaying your current porter grade.
First of all, I'm really curious to see how her whole tar power is coming. Her tar power is.
Sam, this is Tarman. We took the liberty of loading the vehicle and cargo you left outside onto the DHV Magellan. There's something that's been on my mind lately. You had a run-in with some mysterious mechanized assailants while searching for tomorrow, right? Well, after comparing their data to that of the gargantuan mech he summoned, I've concluded that all of these contraptions appear to operate on the same underlying technology. None of them have been fitted with remote operation modules, nor are they capable of autonomous function. They're not robots, in other words. The bloody things don't even have drivetrains or core units. They're almost like puppets with no strings. They don't require chiral network coverage to function either. Though I'll be damned if I know how that's possible. It's almost as if they're spirit-driven machines. Ghost mechs, to give them a name. I'd say it's a safe bet that there are more of these things out there. So to ensure that you're prepared to face them, we've added a Ghost Mech archive to the VR weapons and combat training program. Access it to check out the data we've collected regarding these mechs so far. Anyway, next up you'll be disembarking to go and connect Hartman's research facility to the network.
Finally gonna see Hartman again.
Once you've made your preparations, access the DEUS's delivery terminal to get underway. Of course, the DHV Magellan can take you directly to the DEUS's shelter if you like. So if that's your preference, go ahead and give us the order to head there.
New entry added to the corpus. Ghost. You added to corpus. Ghost mech tracking. Ghost mech blade. Ghost mech dog. Yo. Corpus. It's all auxiliary part of folders according to Frank. Die Hard Man's direct result of the decided that rather officials voting, finding a pass allow the use to select the fairly and active. So Die Hard Man first president. Currently DA delegate national AI. Literal AI. Dad Man. Car Man. Doll Man. Charlie. Drawbridge's patron. Charlie contributes maintenance and operation of the DHV Magellan as well as Drawbridge General. Redney. Hartman. I do not trust. Representative private company and integration of the president does not back Astro Jonas training in orders rainy Berto Puente. Oh, all the preppers. La Madre. Benjamin Riviera. Alex. Old Oz. The governor. Right, this Old Oz is overcome contamination. Building a Peter Gates. Lone Command. Again, Hoshino. Real musician, by the way. Musician. Awesome. Once lived a nomadic life, traveling around. Play music with friends he made. His songs were inspirational, giving people to go on living after Death Stranding. Still listening. Lakegate. Alone. Shelter. Barry. Death Stranding is attempts are being connected people via some resource physically place to place. Orders can vary. Olivia therefore pushed forward a purpose the monorail that had once connected West Fort Knox, surrounding facilities and people. Spiral crystal lightened the open, very modern. Apex boarding soon brought up to operational speed and is expected to play a major role in the Glen Rank animal shelter staff, of course, with churches as the people. Of course, we have Lauren, her of Make North. Samson Hook. That's the Korean actor from Train to Busan. Yeah, Ma Dong Seok. Funny they that's cool. They got him. The Dowser. Old enough. Type of BT that are waiting in days or to or emerging to grab them. Such calculate. Careful, you dragged to the ground by a old catcher prone. Catcher, the largest capture. Trigger. Catchers take many different forms, never fully revealed. Gazer capture. Void out occurs when a catcher swallows a. Some catchers have been known to in tow to targeting territory. Break in. Armed survival. Brigands, violent group poses such as network. Follow the tradition of the Luddites. Destroy their and safeguard the livelihood, as well as the neo-Luddites. Criticize the end. The brigands believe that the Carol network ought not by a form of president environmental atrocity. Such they have developed hatred, very constant. Brigands predate the adapted to surviving the post-stranding. Terrified of therefore killing some survivalists rise themselves and values have taken believe anyone brigands opposed to Australia. Several other groups similar all over the continent. Ghost. Oh, here's an interesting fact on the mask X that Tarman didn't say. Although originally designed to Sam's Autorec also reacts to the presence of ghost mech. We saw that a while ago. No one is quite sure though why though ghost mech serve to both contain and appear from tar. Some think it's the substance Autorec bond. You can find a definitive may well be able to ghost mech. Kraken, Black Dog. There you go. Haven't seen. So cool we can go somewhere. These are cool as hell. Some of that have a rib cage. These are the entry base. Canine goat X can be acted into cargo. Sometimes they're carried and deployed by these units are equipped fitted with devices helping lines that will down their floating on relentless dog pursuit of their name. Good idea to move as far away as possible Help this device is activated. Unactivated, however, can be carried as an ordinary or willing. Alright, I'm gonna program.
Looks like all your training is paying off, huh? I'm so relieved that Tamara was unharmed. She must have been terribly nervous, trying to brave an unfamiliar world. But she's safe now, thanks to you, Sam. And now we have to show the girl that we're equipped to take care of her. That the DHV Magellan is a place she shouldn't be afraid to return to. A place that she can call home. I was surprised by how effectively Tamara was able to fight those mechs. The way she took advantage of the tar and used her unique abilities against them, it demonstrated impressive improvisational skills. But her capacity to rapidly accelerate the age of any material or enemy she comes into contact with. Oh, I can't help but be a little jealous. But there are other ways I can contribute to your work, and I hope to continue doing so. Sam, I was looking into the conditions that led to the bushfire we escaped. It seemed to have been caused by a phenomenon known as chiral cinders. Unlike other items washed up by the currents, cinders violently erupt from the tar and soar through the sky before crashing to the ground. This phenomenon has been observed across the continent and has led to an increase in bushfires. It's one more potential threat to keep an eye
It's
out for.
another environmental catastrophe.
This way.
Do what we're gonna do. morning. Catch you guys later